Hey guys, it's Rafi, and today I'm playing a 25-minute game with a 3-second delay against D or U. Dioreu. Rated 1926. Pretty strong player. So we've started the game actually with the Caro Kann. So it's e4, c6, knight c3, d5, takes. This is called the exchange variation of the Caro Kann. One of my main goals in these kind of positions is to try to get my bishops outside of the pawn chain. So I'm going to go ahead and get my bishop out to this square pretty early on before he can play stuff like h3 or something like that to keep my bishop, maybe tied to f5 or something like that. So yeah, this is how I approach the position. And then I'll play knight f6. I'll play e6. I'll play bishop d6. I'll castle. I'll put this knight on c6 probably. Play rook to c8. And yeah, we'll have a pretty good game. Rook e8. Get all of our pieces centralized. So the reason that I'd like to get this bishop out early is because a lot of times if you play e6 first, this bishop becomes really hard to develop. Gets stuck behind the pawn chain and it becomes really tricky to get this guy out. So I try to get this bishop out pretty quickly. It's probably more accurate, to be honest with you, to play knight f6 first, just following the principle of knights before bishops, because typically with bishops, it's sometimes uncertain where the best square for the bishops are, whereas the knights, you pretty much always know they're going to go on f6 and c6 or e7 and d7, something like that. So sometimes it is, typically it's better to get these knights out first. So he'll castle, probably. I'll play e6. He'll play d4. I'll play bishop d6. And we will have a situation where we'll have fairly calm position where hopefully we can lead this into some sort of a positional battle, which is where I would like to think I can squeeze out, an advantage from my opponent. So I'm thinking about bishop d6, but he has this knight b5. Actually, nah. I thought about bishop c5 for a second, but I don't know if I like it. Bishop b4 is another option. He hasn't played d4 yet. That's really strange. I wonder what kind of subtleties involve not playing this d4. And I wonder if I can somehow try to punish this idea of him not playing d4. Maybe like playing d4 myself is what I'm thinking. So if I play d4 here, he plays knight b5, d4, knight b5, bishop c5. Interesting. I kind of like it. Really does take away some key squares, he kind of gets a little bit trapped in there. So I kind of like the idea of just, punishing him for not playing this move for such a long time. Let's see. Let's see where it goes. So d4, knight b5, bishop c5. What will he do? Maybe play c3 or something? Oh, check first. So here, things are interesting. I feel like the right way to play this position is probably to play knight c6. And if he takes, I take back, then he plays knight to e4. Well, he's technically moved the bishop twice, so that's something to consider. The fact that he's wasting time moving the same piece over and over. Knight b to d7 is also a move here, but then he takes on. No, he can't take on d4. That's the thing. Interesting. I feel like I should not really play knight c6 and let him butcher my pawn structure so early on, but it's not really butchered because I can play c5 and I have a pretty good pawn structure. I don't know. I don't know. I'll play knight b d7 here. Let's see. I didn't want to commit to this idea of really opening up things too much by playing knight c6. I don't know. Just didn't feel comfortable, I guess, doing that quite yet. So we're going to approach it this way. So now I want to make him. If I play a6, there's knight takes f6 check, which could be a little annoying, maybe, possibly. a6, knight f6, gf6. I don't have any opportunities to castle in that case for a long time, and I have to be okay with that. So I don't know how I feel about that. It's probably fine, but I don't like to play those kind of positions usually, where it's a lot of tactical stuff going on. So I'm thinking I may take a quieter approach and just play bishop e7 here. Yeah, let's keep things quiet for now. Don't want to get into too much tactical. I try to steer games, towards positions that I feel comfortable with, generally speaking. And I know that probably probably a6 is fine here, but I don't like the idea of my king being stuck in the center. And yeah, I get some compensation. Of course, I get a pawn towards the center, even though they're doubled. But I do get the open G file to work with, and that could have been a really interesting game, probably. But I feel like my strength is in positional in games where it's a positional battle. Things are fairly calm, and it's slow positional maneuvering that wins the battle. So I'm gonna, do my best to try to stick with those kind of positions as much as I can. So here I'm thinking about snapping off the knight, because if I play bishop h4, he plays, sorry, bishop h5, g4, bishop g6, knight takes d4. Well, he can't play knight takes d4 right away. So bishop h5, g4, bishop g6, knight f6 check, bishop takes f6, protects the pawn on d4. Interesting. So bishop h4, g4, bishop g6. There's also g5. That doesn't work because I just take on e4. So bishop h5, g4, bishop g6 hits the knight. And looks like he doesn't have any good way to attack d4. So let's go ahead and keep the tension on the position. He might play knight g3 here, by the way. Then knight g6 comes in. That's interesting. Some interesting play here. Bishop h5, knight g3. Then takes. I don't know. I don't know, really. This d4 pawn idea may not have been the best way to play this, maybe. I don't know. Takes queen f3, castles, knight takes f6, bishop takes f6, queen takes b7. Or I guess I wouldn't take with the bishop. I'd probably take with this knight. Queen takes b7. He's running into all sorts of trouble after rook b8, I guess. And if he takes on d7, then I can protect b7. So let's go ahead and just take this knight. Now let's get castled up. Yeah, he wants to get this b7 pawn, but it's not going to happen. I will get lots of compensation with rook b8 right away. Oof, that's... Okay. Well, hopefully I will get a lot of compensation. This is a bold move he just made. All right. Let us punish him now. Rook b8. There's queen c6. Queen a4. All right, let's start with rook b8. We know that's the first move to start this process here. The goal here is to try to pressure the b5 bishop by getting in a bunch of moves. Getting a bunch of moves in, like queen d5 and something like that. Like rook b6 is a developing move, basically. I want his queen to feel awkward here. So queen d5 immediately hits the bishop again, but then there's c4. Well, no, c4 doesn't work. I can take en passant. There's bishop c4, though. If rook b6, then queen a5. Then queen d5. There's a5. All types of craziness here. a4, I mean. he certainly seemed pretty confident that he was going to make this idea work. So we got to definitely find tactical developing moves to try to win this guy. Or get our pieces out quickly, basically, is what I'm saying. The other idea is to play bishop b4 here, with an idea of playing rook b6. Let's get in rook b6 first. There's also queen a4. Oh, I didn't even consider queen a4 too strongly here. So if queen b8, bishop moves, then there's always rook b4. Which makes the queen feel extremely awkward, I think. So let's keep attacking him. And if c4, I can take en passant. Is there any other queen move that's better than this one? I don't think so. I think we should go with this one. This is an interesting situation where I'm down a pawn, but I'm playing all for activity here. I mean, piece activity is a very important imbalance we have to play for, and yeah, I'm just gonna show him. I'm gonna try to prove that my piece activity is gonna be better than his extra pawn. So if rook b4, queen a5 is interesting. Like I said, the goal is to try to get as much activity in play for this pawn as possible. I'm putting pressure on b2. His bishop is awkwardly placed. This bishop is having a hard time getting out. Queen is awkward. I mean, that's exactly what I need out of this position. I'll be right back. All right, so b3, yep. He definitely wants to get the bishop out, no doubt about that, but hopefully we can trap this queen now. Let's do some accurate calculations here. So rook b4. Queen a3 is interesting there. In a very strange way, he's actually getting out by queen a3 because I don't have any good discoveries with my rook. Knight d5 sacrifices yet another pawn, and then there's knight f4. Queen moves. I take on bishop, and I gave him these really bad pawns. But that might be too much material. I don't know. This has most certainly been an interesting game. That is for sure. Rook d5, bishop b2. Maybe I swing rook over to g5. Maybe play e5 here first. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and get our central pawns rolling here. I really have to trade off one of these bishops. These two bishops are going to turn out to be really powerful here. This pawn sacrifice really wasn't sound in hindsight as I think about this. I mean, just isn't working out the way I was expecting it to. This whole d4 idea, I think, was just not the best way to approach it. I have plenty of piece activity now, but I need to be able to poke some weaknesses in my enemy's position, and that is what I'm unable to do here. Okay, so he offers me a trade of one pair of bishops. I might just take him up on this one. Now that that pair of bishops is gone, now I can swing my rooks over, hopefully. Try to get some activity for my rooks to swing over this way and my knight to go this way, and then hopefully, my pieces will start to slowly but surely start swinging this direction and get some sort of a kingside attack going while the queen is still busy on this side of the board. I'm going to first harass this bishop next with knight f4, I think. Okay, so he goes there. Knight b4 doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I think knight f4 should be the way to go here. Maybe play h4 and h5 to gain some kingside space. This bishop is also very actively placed now, by the way, to guard this and also attack my queen side. I mean, this bishop is a great piece, there's no doubt. But maybe if he plays d3, c2 will become a weakness. But I don't think he will play that. Yeah, he played this way. That is interesting because now he's giving me this open d file for my rook. And also that's a pawn sacrifice, not to mention. Well, it's not a pawn sacrifice really, actually. I take that back. But yeah, I'll happily open up the position now. Got activity for my pieces and I'm happy to do it. I think now is an ideal time to start playing moves like h5 because he's going to play rook d1 here in a second. But maybe I should play rook d2 first. Get that rook in there before he can play this rook d1. So if rook d1, rook d6, takes, queen e7 might be interesting here for him. I have to watch my back rank, of course. Ooh, did knight e2 check have any venom? I don't think so, but I didn't calculate it deeply. Should have looked into knight e2 check, actually, to see if that might have worked or something by chance. Now, I know knight e2 check here might be interesting again, but he has king f1 always. Actually, he can even play king g1. Or king h1. It works. Now it's either my activity wins or his extra pawn wins. I have no idea which will be the case. Yep, queen is getting active too now. That does give me a pawn, though, on a2. Should I go for it? I don't know if that was the best idea, but let's just do it. I'm going to play g6 or g5 here shortly. Pawns are rolling for him now. Let's play g6 to give the king some safety here. So takes, queen takes, and this pawn may become difficult. Oh, there's this move. Queen moves, I take the rook, he takes my rook. Oh, this is getting interesting soon. Let's do it. Let us go for it. I wonder if bishop takes f7 check. Ooh. Ooh, this is interesting. This is interesting stuff. Check. Oh no. Oh no. This is not good. He just moved the queen. Now my rook is under attack. Oh goodness. Wait. Don't I have this? Rook takes here? I don't know. It's getting too complex way too fast for me now. I don't know what's going on in this position anymore. I have 3 minutes. I gotta kind of roll along here. Can't be thinking too hard on these positions now. This bishop is massively strong here, though. Massive piece. I feel like I'm in a lot of trouble after a simple move like rook d1 here. I feel like I'm under some pretty serious trouble because I can't play queen here, unfortunately. I guess I can play that. I don't know. This is tactical stuff right here. Oh. Is that the best way to play this? This takes with bishop, and I take. Oh, I can't take because then queen takes. Oof. Oh wait, bishop, queen b6. Bishop takes. I take with check. Discovered check. Whichever way he captures on f7, I can take with the rook, and that's a check. That's what's keeping this position together for me. This is interesting now. Oh. This, I don't know. I don't know. I may not have much options but to take the draw, though, unfortunately. Let's see if there's a mating pattern here that I'm missing somehow. Check. Here, check. Here. Here. Oh, I have an extra pawn here. Hold on a second here. Hmm. Too low on time to calculate all this. I feel like I could have maybe, I don't know. Let's give him a couple of checks and see what happens first. See where he goes with his king. Hmm. Check here. Here. He moves. I take, but then there's f7. Oh. f7 is a major problem here. I don't think I can do much. Well, maybe can I win the bishop? Somehow. I don't think I can. Let's trick him a little bit with these checks for a second. Let's just see. Pretty sure he won't miss anything stupid, like he won't play king h1, I'm assuming. Yeah, he definitely is not making that kind of mistake here. Oh, that is interesting. Check, bishop blocks. That got interesting fast. Oh, now it's really getting interesting here. Because now I have stuff like this. Now he has to do a perpetual, or he has to play queen b7. Queen d5, I guess, also does it. Wait a second here. Wait a second here. I can trade down into a winning king pawn endgame. I think, right? Takes. I'm up a pawn, so I'm okay with trading to a queen king pawn endgame here. Let's get these pawns rolling and get this king over. Ooh, I don't know about that move. That might have sealed the deal for him, I think. Yeah, he's in some trouble now. Definitely in some tough waters now, no doubt. I will create a passed pawn. He can't ever take either of those two pawns, by the way, because the other one queens. It's a unfortunate situation. He can't ever take any of my pawns. Now I get a queen. Let's protect this pawn. Just so there's no weird stuff happening here. Yeah, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Unfortunately, he tried to play for the win, but he just forgot that I was up a pawn in the king pawn endgame and I could trade down. So that's really important, understanding where you are materially, where you stand, understanding the imbalances, and knowing how to properly transition from each phase of the game, like one phase to the next, I think is important. And so, yeah, I think, we had good knowledge of how to transition from middle to end game. And, I was very lucky that I was able to see that I was up the pawn and could trade down to a winning pawn, king pawn end game. So that's the biggest takeaway for me from that game. So let's go ahead and analyze this one with Stockfish and kind of see where could have made some improvements. Ideally, the best way to analyze is to analyze on your own first, and then play the engine. But for the sake of time in these videos, we're just gonna go ahead and just do it all together. The reason that you'd want to analyze on your own first is you don't want to let the computer evaluation sort of like, cloud your judgment and an assessment of the positions, because computers might think something is winning or losing or slightly worse or something like that, but that doesn't mean, practically speaking, against your non-master, or rather I should say non-grandmaster opponent, that doesn't mean that it's the same scenario in practicality. So you have to always kind of keep that in mind in chess. Okay, so e4 c6, Caro Kann, knight c3 d5, takes, knight f3, bishop g4, bishop e2, knight f6, castle, excuse me, e6, rook e1. Yeah, so here I went wrong with this d4. I think computer also agrees. There we go. So I had some advantage, and then after d4, it's just gone. Just unnecessary pawn push, really. Just wasting time and deviating from general opening principles, which says that get your pieces out, castle. I should have really developed my bishop and castled. Simple chess. But I was trying to get fancy because I was trying to punish him for not playing d4 and trying to like somehow get an opening edge on him or something like center control. But really, it was just the pawn was pushed way too far out. After d4, plays this check. And yeah, here we were thinking about a6, where he could go into this sort of line where he takes here. This is the kind of line that we were calculating. Like he could have done that. The computer really likes this. Queen takes. Interesting. So it's allowing this stuff. Okay, I guess there's no way to really punish the king for being out on the open like that. I guess he's trying with this move. This is quite an interesting position. I didn't really think about queen takes f6 much. But again, like I said, I don't know if I would feel comfortable playing this. But although white, accurately speaking, if you look at the position objectively, there's really no way that white can truly take advantage of this black king on d7. Because I'm just playing moves like rook to c8 or d8, and then playing the king here, here, and here. So just to play out a few more moves that the computer is suggesting. Computer is going straight to an endgame. Interesting. Okay. I don't know. I think the move that I played is probably fine too. Yeah, it's fine. Should be 7. H3. Yeah, okay. So computer is suggesting also to take, so it doesn't like the bishop h5 either. Yeah, because of the knight g3 move probably, or knight takes f6. It's showing that line. Queen takes. I just castled here, but it's wanting me to trade knights here. I don't know if I would want to do that. Doesn't that kind of put a lot of pressure on d5, my d4 pawn? Oh, queen c7 was interesting too. I guess I could have considered that instead of going for this pawn sacrifice line, but I think it's fine. I think it turned out not too bad for us. Yep. All of this is computer suggestions as well. And it really likes the activity that I have for the pawn, but it doesn't like my rook b6. Yeah, definitely giving white some advantage after this rook b6 stuff. But again, that's computers. They know how to defend each position perfectly. That doesn't mean your human opponent will be able to. But in this position, I think that white is fine. Honestly, white should be able to very easily. He doesn't have any weaknesses. He has a great pawn structure. Yeah, he's a little bit behind in development, but I have no attacking points. His pieces are, pawns and everything are perfectly. There's nothing for me to attack and go after. So it's really hard to justify this pawn sacrifice, I think. But I tried my best, and it, turns out that it didn't. It worked out not so bad. Queen b8, bishop here. Got my other rook activated into the game. So this b3. Okay, yeah, I was thinking during the game that he should probably play a3 to keep this b4 square under control. But I can see why he played b3. He really wanted to get this bishop developed. So after this, so here I think I played e5. I did. Why is that such a big mistake? I think it's because this bishop gets active on c4. The bishop gets pretty active on c4 now. Because the e6 pawn was kind of blunting the bishop, but now it's... Yeah, makes sense. I should have played as this move, which I considered that, but I thought he just plays here. Then what? His queen is just getting out. But I guess the queen is in a very awkward position if he has to go this way. If he has to play a move like queen b2, I mean, that queen is, absolutely misplaced. I didn't think so much about that idea of just pushing the queen into the corner, but he doesn't have to. He has queen a6. He can try to zigzag his way out. I guess this is a draw. Guess I had a draw here. Anyway, e5, maybe not the most ideal move. I think because it lets him quickly get his pieces out and trade off a pair of bishops, I think that ends up helping him somehow. I think the whole idea of this, was to try to keep the development, try to keep more pieces on the board so I can try to play for my initiative. But after this, I think that when pieces get exchanged off, I'm just truly down a pawn at this point for no compensation. Yeah. It's nothing for me now. Compensation is gone. White now has the pawn and the compensation. So, but I tried. I kept playing active chess here. And it definitely paid pretty good dividends here. So yeah, he played the right idea here with c4. Okay, so he wanted to open things up and get these pawns rolling. It makes sense. I took. He took. Got my rook into d2. I guess I should have played this rook. I don't know why I did rook d2. I could have played rook d6. That prevents him from taking the d file altogether. Should have done that. No idea why didn't I play rook d6. No clue. Computer likes g6, which is also not a bad move. Blunting the bishop and opening up the back rank. Or protecting the king against the back rank checkmate, basically. Rook d2, rook d1, d6, takes. And here he just gave the pawn back. And I feel like this was not the best idea. I don't know. But I didn't see any reason not to take it. My rook was still very active on the second rank. I was like, all right, I'll take the pawn. Should have played the c4 idea. I guess c4 move is more accurate because it takes the crucial d5 square away from my knight, so the bishop doesn't have to get tied down to that, and it gives me anchor for the bishop on d5 as well, which is very strong on d5, as you saw later in the game. Bishop g6, and here I really went wrong with this knight d3, I guess. I don't know what the tactics look like, but the computer is suggesting just taking that bishop. But then how do I defend the e5? I guess I counterattack one of his pawns. I don't know. Hmm. Interesting. I don't know. I don't know what would have happened. I think this knight d3 was just too ambitious, and then yeah, tactically, I think it fails. Yeah, see, he had all sorts of ways to get out of this. I think his simplest, yeah, like the computer is suggesting queen e3 simply, and my rook is hanging, my knight is hanging, everything is hanging. But he missed that, and he played this, which is still winning. So here I just played for tricks, and somehow these tricks ended up working. Here I thought, okay, after rook d1, he really doesn't have anything. He really went wrong with this rook f1. I think he just lost all his advantage with this rook f1. Because I didn't see any solid reply after this rook d1. I could have played queen b6, but he just steps out of the way, I feel like, or something. I don't know. He can probably even just take my knight. If I play this, yeah, I was just thinking he can just take this because I can't really do a discover check and pick up the rook because this hangs and checkmate. Give a check, but this is it. Game over now. And I was completely lost here. But he played this move, which makes things extremely interesting now. Because now I have a great move, queen b6. And there's no solid way he can get out of this now. And now he's, according to the computer, white is actually worse here. Although I don't know how black capitalizes off this, honestly. I mean, it says white is worse, but how does black make progress? Ooh, like that. Interesting. He doesn't have to do anything. He can just sit on this position and slowly improve. That's interesting. I guess he has a pass pawn. He can try to walk or something. I don't know. This is so tricky to play with minutes, seconds on the clock like that. I mean, we each had, I don't know how long, but it wasn't a whole lot. Maybe less than 5 minutes for sure. He had a lot of time, but I had less than 5 minutes for sure. I wasn't going to risk this, honestly. This is way too risky to play with that little bit of time left. So I chose to just poke around and see what he would do. And sure enough, it's something different here. Played this g3. Check. Bishop g2. Ooh, knight e1 was a mistake. Because he can check on e8, then after king g7, he can take on e5 with check. Oh, goodness, I missed that completely. Dang. Glad he didn't see this. But it's saying it's a draw. He gave the wrong check. He should have dropped down on e8 and then gave the check that way. Yeah, so now this runs straight into the line that we just happened in the game. I guess if I was trying to force this, I should have taken with the queen on g2, but anyway, after knight takes, I mean, it's not like he has. Oh, he did. After knight takes, he still had queen takes e5, but I think my king can just walk out of those checks, though. Yeah, queen takes e5, I can just walk out of the checks. So unfortunately, he has to go into this endgame, which I believe is losing for white. Yeah. But I played all the best moves here. That was definitely a mistake because that gives me, I mean, all the room now to. I mean, I get a lot of tempo after this. Tempi at hand to expense, and he just really can't make any progress. His king can't come in and support his two pawns after that move anymore. It was losing before anyway, but this makes it super losing now. Yeah, so that's the game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Definitely biggest takeaway is, knowing how to transition from each phase of the game to the next. And I think, yeah, although I don't think that my pawn sacrifice on b7 was probably the most sound approach, especially the way I ended up playing, somewhat down the line. I do think there's some knowledge to be had, some wisdom to be had about like playing for activity. In my case, in this particular case, I don't think that I had enough compensation to be completely honest, because his pawn structure was perfect. He didn't have any weaknesses, and I was just down a pawn. But I think that, as you can see, the computer also pointed out that I definitely had enough play for it to be an even position. And you really can't be afraid of, sometimes being down a material, because it's just another imbalance you have to play with, and use that to your advantage. If you're down material, you just try to see how much play you can get out of that in return. So thanks again for watching, and leaving the comments if you have any specific questions or concerns or anything you want to add or share. And I'll see you in the next video.